Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Okay guys, I was filming my November wrap-up, and I ended up filming like a nearly 10-minute long rant about A Gathering of Shadows, this book right here. And I was like, you know what, that's real long to put in my wrap-up, so let's go ahead and branch this off into a rant review. So if this is a little weird in terms of the transition, that is why. I'm not sure what the footage looks like, but yeah, this is my rant about A Gathering of Shadows. I want to say on the front end, it's not that I hate this book or hate this series. The reason I'm so ranty about it is because I'm frustrated at how much potential is here and how much that was squandered through a simple lack of good editing. Yeah, that's sort of the TLDR account. And now let's transition into me ranting about this for an extended period of time. And then we come to it, the part of the video where a lot of people are probably going to be mad at me or unsubscribe or whatever. Here's the deal, guys. This is so overhyped. So, okay, let me set this up for you. I read A Darker Shade of Magic earlier in the year, and I thought, this is a little messy. This is a little filler-filled, but the writing is really good. I really like these characters, and by the end, we're really getting into a good plot. So, okay, it needed some runway to take off, but like, now we're cooking, and what everybody has told me is that each book in this series gets better and better. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, I think that I just essentially very much disagree with that assessment, and I want to put this out here because I think that this series, I probably would have even liked this book more if it had not been so hyped up to me. So I want to be a voice of unhyping so that maybe you can enjoy this more than I ended up enjoying it because your hype will not be as high or your expectations won't be as high, whatever. Okay, so here's the problem I have with this book. Also, can we just talk about the cover design of these? These are just so gorgeous, I can't even. So that's working. The cover design is working. V.E. Schwab is a very good writer. So like on the sentence to sentence level, this is really well written. I really like the characters. Now, some people critique, that's a lot of people's biggest problem with these books is the characters. They say that they're whiny, or they don't like Lila, or they think Kel is too mopey. I can see all of that. That wasn't my experience of the characters. I think you know what it is? She writes a lot of YA. I do think that for an adult fantasy novel, these characters read more YA, which is why I think people recommend this frequently as a bridge between YA and adult fantasy. So that might be part of it. But the characters I liked. I was really invested in. I think Rye is super, like, I like his development. Alucard, I am here for. I ship Alucard and Rye. Like, I like them together. So the characters are great too. The world building continues to be very interesting. Like, I am super interested in all the world pieces of this. So you're asking, why do you think this is overhyped? What? Guys. This is a 500-page book that has, I'm going to be generous and say 200 pages of actual relevant story to this trilogy. Now, I'm sorry, I'm about to get real sassy about this. I should tell you, I gave this a 2.5 star. It's not like I hated this book, but I am so disappointed in this book because it should have been so much better than it is, because as I've been saying, there are so many things to like. Okay, let's get into this. This book is completely riddled with filler. So much of this book, there's nothing happening that actually is relevant to the overall story plot. Now, I will go ahead and tell you, I have not finished A Conjuring of Light yet, but I've started it, and maybe I will get a huge twist in the final part of the third book, which will make things that happened in this book and the first book super relevant. But like, based on what I've heard, I don't think that's the case. Sorry, I feel like I'm all over the place because I'm so indignant. What this boils down to is that this book is badly edited, and so was the first one. And Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany, also shout out to her because she had to listen to my like raw rant about this right after I finished reading it. But she reminded me that the way Victoria Schwab writes is that she writes various scenes and then puts them together, which is a completely valid writing process. However, it is the job of the editor to then go in and say, you know what, this is a really cool scene, but it doesn't belong in this book because we're trying to tell a 3-book arc story here. And while this is cool, this does not belong in that 3-part arc. It belongs in a side novella. You guys, the entire first part of this book should be a side novella of cool pirating things that are totally interesting and valid and cool, but do not belong in this book. Like, why did I spend 300 pages of setup to get to the actual part of this book that is valid to the overall arc of the series. That is ridiculous. And it is an editor's goddamn job to look at what the writer gives them and say, hey, you know what? This is great, but here's what we need to do to make this actually a workable story. This book does not work as a part of the story. This is one of the least successful second books I've ever read. And it made me retrospectively like the first book less, because I thought the first book was just filled with filler because it was getting going. And now what I realize is no, it is 2 books that were poorly edited. And it's such a disservice to what could be an incredibly strong 3-book story that were smaller books and more tightly plotted. And this would be like one of my favorite series ever if it had all of the fat trimmed out. Also, the publisher's done fucked up, because you could totally have sold us a 4th book in this as a novella. Like, you missed a chance to make money off of people telling a side. Like, if this book had started, and sorry, I'm so mad about this. Bad editing really gets me worked up. If this book had started and had like all these allusions to like badass pirating from Lila, like I would have been like, there's a novella about that? Fuck yeah, I'll read that. And then I wouldn't be as mad, because as a side quest, as a side plot, it would be fine. But it completely slows down the flow of the book. You spend the first part of the book either like pirating or with Cal and Rye just like chilling. And you get allusions to what's happening in White London. And like, there's a lot of interesting things that could be happening that just aren't. And I'm angry that I have to wait so long to get to the part that's relevant. Also, I will tell you, sorry, I'm really barely mad about this. I don't quite know why this made me so mad, but it did. I'm now into the 3rd book, and I can tell you that the first 100, 200 pages of the 3rd book should have just gotten bumped up into the 2nd one, and then the 3rd book could have started. Like, it's so clear to me where the editing should have been happening, and like, I don't know what the deal was. I don't know if they thought it was better to keep these books longer, like if that was the goal, like, we want these to stay like kind of chunky, weighty fantasy books, so like it's fine for them to be longer. I don't understand why these books needed to be this long. If each of these books was like 200 pages shorter, it would be a better story overall. Or you could have just made a duology and have 2, actually I know exactly where you would break up a duology right after the games in this one, and then you could start into the next, like, I'm just befuddled by the series of choices that were made with this series. I feel, and the reason I'm saying this is not because I hate this. I like a lot of parts of it, and I want people to not think that this series is like the be all and end all. Each book gets better and better, because I just honestly, that's not my experience of these books. If that is your experience, I'm not invalidating that, but like, I just wish that the people that I'd encountered talking about this series more consistently, what I'd heard is like the 3rd book is where things really heat up. Some people that I watch do kind of talk about that. Like, I think Connor O'Brien, I don't think he was as into this, or Sam from Thoughts on Tome Topple, and maybe even Emily Fox from Books with Emily Fox. Maybe they kind of had said this, but most of what I'd heard was like, oh, the 2nd book is even better than the first one. And I'm just so disappointed that that wasn't the case. I'm so disappointed that this series is going to end up not being a like great one to me. Like, I'm far enough into the 3rd book that barring some like incredible turn of events, I can tell you that I don't think I'm going to really love it all that much either. And it just makes me sad, because I think that this series had a lot of potential. Now, that being said, now that I've ranted about that, it's not that I'm not saying Victoria Schwab is canceled. I'm not reading her books anymore, because what I really like is her voice in this. What I'm hoping is that as she develops as a writer, and I think as she has gotten more confidence in her style of writing, because I've even heard her talk about this, like what her process is, I'm hopeful that her books will continue to be more tightly plotted, and that she'll find ways to take these disparate scenes that come to her and put them together better. And or that her editors will strap on a pair and get rid of the things that don't belong in the book at hand. Because I do think that she's a great writer, and I really like her characters, and I really like her world building. So I'm definitely going to continue to read from her. I think I'm just so sad that this series is going to end up being like just kind of a 3-star series to me, probably. And it had so much potential to be more than that. So you saw it. That was a rant. Yeah, all that to say, this was disappointing. Would I recommend this series? That's a really good question. I think if you go into it with the right expectations, this is a good series. This is an enjoyable series. people talk about this series like it is one of the best out there, and I just firmly disagree with that. Like, it just gets talked to, and maybe it doesn't even get talked about that way. Maybe it's more just that so many people have read this that I think you assume that it's really, really good. And I guess what I just want to tell you is it is enjoyable, but it's not perfect, and I would really manage your expectations about this one. Maybe that's what I have to say about it. Yeah, I'm not done with the final book yet, but I'm far enough into it that I can tell you that barring some like crazy twist or turn of events, it's not gonna get to be like one of my all-time faves. And so, yeah, I just think that manage your expectations. If you go into this looking for a perfectly pleasant and well-written with a good world series, like kind of I would even maybe call this like new adult to adult fantasy series, you're gonna enjoy it, but it's not as good as people say, at least in my opinion, and I'm sure that there's plenty of passionate V.E. Schwab fans out there who would totally disagree with me on this, but I would totally read other books. Let's put it this way, I would read other things set in this world, but I think that this particular series is overhyped. That's probably my ultimate feelings about it. I hope you enjoyed that little lovely rant that I had, and yeah, I think that will do it. I hope there's nobody out there who hates me, and by the way, if you totally disagree, if you really enjoyed it, I'm glad, because like, I always want people to enjoy what they're reading. Like, so I'm so happy if you disagree with me and thought that this was like a perfectly good entry and whatever, like that's great. I know how I feel about this. I don't think anyone could really persuade me that this is not badly edited at this point, but I don't want to take away from anybody's enjoyment of this series. So like totally not trying to do that. And this is just my opinion. So take it with a grain of salt. But if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye.